In Palestine, Israeli bombardments against several areas in Gaza left 7 people killed and more than 30 others injured. In the Netherlands, the International Court of Justice hosts a hearing in which Mexico sues Ecuador following the assault on the Mexican embassy in Quito. In Argentina, the lower chamber of Congress approved in General Milei's flagship project, also known as the Basis and Starting Points Law. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Palestine on Tuesday, at least 7 people were killed and more than 30 locals were wounded after Israeli bombardments against several areas in the Gaza Strip. It is where the Israeli occupation army fired shells at the refugee camps of Nusayrat, Bureij and Al-Baghazi. On the other hand, the Palestinian authorities informed that in the last hours, rescue teams recovered the bodies of 6 citizens from the Al-Amal neighborhood west of town, victims of the Zionist occupation army. Since the beginning of the aggressions against the Gaza Strip by Israel, more than 34,000 Palestinians have been killed, while approximately 77,000 have been seriously injured. In Israel, thousands rallied in protest against the actions of Benjamin Netanyahu's government and its aggressive policy in the Palestinian territories. In this way, demonstrators mobilized in several cities of the country rejecting the policies of Netanyahu's administration demanding a ceasefire on Palestine. In view of Tel Aviv's refusal to stop its attack and negotiate with the Palestinian resistance the handing over of the Israeli detainees. In the midst of the massive protests, Israeli police forces tried to repress the demonstrations by assaulting the demonstrators. Meanwhile, in Canada, university students hold a campaign to demand an immediate halt to the attacks on Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. Students at McGill University in Montreal demanded a halt to funding the Zionist state of Israel. In addition, they raised their voices to call off ties with Israeli academic institutions. Those actions come after students' protest organizations released data revealing that 50 of the companies in which the university invests are accomplices of the Israeli regime.
Collective. McGill invests a lot of money into companies that are complicit in genocide in Palestine and in Gaza, into companies that do weapons manufacturing and the such. And as a student, I don't believe that student tuition should be going into anything that violent at all.
In the United States, police continue repressive actions and arrests against student movements that reject the U.S. government's support to Israel as the Tel Aviv regime continues its aggression in Gaza. U.S. police arrested former Green leftist presidential candidate Jill Stein and her campaign manager Jason Cole, along with other leaders. At Washington University in St. Louis, Stein said that at the time of the arrest, he was with students defending constitutional rights and U.S. citizens that are demanding an end to the genocide in Gaza. Meanwhile, protests have intensified despite the authorities' repressive actions.
So the number one goal of this encampment is divestment from the university's complicity in genocide in Gaza. Our endowment is currently invested in military-industrial companies and in other companies that facilitate apartheid occupation and genocide in Gaza. And we're here focused on ending that horrendous violence and specifically calling our institution to account for its own complicity in that violence.
Let's now take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. The International Court of Justice hosts on Tuesday in the Netherlands a hearing in which Mexico sues Ecuador following the assault on the Mexican embassy in Quito on April 5th. In this sense, the Mexican delegation presents a proposal for precautionary measures against the Ecuadorian government after the acts in violation of international law in which Ecuadorian agents assaulted the Mexican diplomatic compound to kidnap and detain the Vice President Jorge Glass. In this regard, Mexico requests Ecuador to take measures to guarantee the full protection and security of the diplomatic premises. For its part, Ecuador sued Mexico before the ICJ for illegally granting political asylum to the former president, considering that the northern country does not comply with the norms of political and diplomatic asylum and anti-corruption conventions.
There are lines in international law which should not be crossed. Regrettably, the Republic of Ecuador has crossed them. The actions undertaken by Ecuador not only transgress the established boundaries of international law, but also have served a disconcerting precedent that reverberates across the international community.
In this regard, Alejandro Celorio Alcantara, Mexico's representative to the International Court of Justice, reiterated that the legal proceedings before Ecuador seek to hold the Ecuadorian government responsible for the attack on its diplomatic body.
First day in court, we are here to hold Ecuador accountable for the egregious violation of diplomatic law, the forceful entry of Ecuador in our embassy, and the egregious attack against the personnel and the dignity of our diplomatic personnel has to have consequences of the same.
In the framework of the public hearing to be held at the International Court of Justice, the Mexican Foreign Ministry issued the following through their social media account on X. The International Court of Justice will hold the first public hearing in relation to the violent raid by the Ecuadorian police on the Embassy of Mexico and the aggression against diplomatic personnel, which took place on the night of Friday, April 5th. The statement also indicated that Mexico will present its arguments on the violations of international law committed by Ecuador, specifically the principle of inviolability of diplomatic headquarters established in the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations. Likewise, it emphasized that in view of the initiation of proceedings that Ecuador filed today in the ICJ against our country, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs informs that it is noteworthy that these accusations are presented almost a month after the violent attack on the Mexican embassy. However, the accusations were foreseeable and will be responded to at the appropriate procedure moment. On Monday, the government of Venezuela revealed new evidence of the PDVSA crypto corruption scheme. In this sense, the president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, pointed out that the investigation carried out by the Public Prosecutor's Office has shown conclusive elements which reveal the configuration of a corrupt mafia with the purpose of stealing and destabilizing the country. He also pointed out that the investigations will continue in order to discover and capture the others implicated in the destabilizing plot. At the same time, he affirmed that the former Minister of Oil, Tarek El-Aissami, together with Samark Lopez and Simon Serpa, had been maintaining relations for 2 years with the far-right sector and the government of the United States.
They had 2 years working together. This Mr. Samark Lopez is the right hand of El-Aissami, from the University of the Andes. Our people should know it. This is key. It was a group made up in Mérida, in the University of the Andes. All this corrupt group, captured, investigated, convicted and confessed, all, and at least, according to the pieces of evidence we have in our hands, since 2018. Since January 2018, they have been coordinating the conspiracy. What happened in 2018? The attempt on my life. They were aware of such attempt. On August 4, 2018, what happened in 2019? On a day like tomorrow, 5 years after the coup of the green bananas, they were posted on the green bananas in Altamira, and they were thus coordinated with Leopoldo Lopez. And with the White House directly, the government, John Bolton and partners in crime.
Haitians continue to denounce they are living in a violent climate due to the presence of criminal groups, while their nation is in the process of laying the groundwork to reordering the political life of the Caribbean country. In this sense, the latest United Nations report highlighted that the Haitian people are living through the worst spiral of violence in 2 years. In the first quarter of 2024, more than 2,500 victims between dead and wounded have been counted due to violent incidents. In this sense, the International Organization for Migration indicates that in March 2024 alone, more than 53,000 people left Port-au-Prince due to the upsurge of incidents.
Armed individuals roamed the neighborhood and intimidated residents with sporadic gunfire. As residents of the area, we cannot allow the neighborhood to drift. We decided to erect barriers to protect ourselves from the invasion of criminal groups. The area is on high alert, as it represents a fairly accessible route for criminal activity.
We are constantly on alert. As soon as we are informed of the presence of invaders, we feel threatened.
The international seminar Boosting Tourism Development through Innovation in Community-Based Tourism was held in Cuba. Precisely, the seminar is the preamble to the 69th session of the United Nations Tourism Regional Commission for the Americas, to be held on Tuesday in Varadero Beach. In the opening speech, Natalia Bayona, Executive Director of UN Tourism, talked about social innovation and community, while a ministerial panel discussed the challenges, strategies, and good practices for the development of sustainable tourism. The objective of the activity is to promote the development of community-based tourism through empowerment and investment in local communities, as well as to encourage innovation in their tourism products.
Without a doubt, community tourism is synonymous of development, is synonymous of social population, is synonymous of developing rural territories, is synonymous of betting on a new way of doing tourism, and without a doubt of helping all those who want to make an enterprise, to do it with purpose, to help those vulnerable areas, to help those vulnerable populations to return to society, and under a formalization of the economy have a source of work and maybe the economic sector that can reach development faster is undoubtedly tourism.
We stay in Cuba as the Second Congress on the need for a new international economic order continues in Havana, a space to address issues related to the problems that hinder development and world peace. Distinguished economists, academics, experts, and politicians from around the world met to discuss issues arising from an unbalanced economic, political, scientific, technological, and military international order. The event allows for the promotion of strategies for the Global South to make sovereign decisions. The meeting coincides with the 50th anniversary of the establishment of a new international economic order approved by the UN General Assembly on May 1st, 1974. Jorge Rocha, co-chair of the Democratic Socialists of America International Committee, allowed us to interview him as he was attending the Second Congress on the new international economic order held in Havana.
I would say the main objective here is to learn from other progressive academics, scholars, organizers, intellectuals, to be able to understand how is it that the progressive forces in the world, democracy in its total and fullest form, by making sure that everybody is protected, everybody has the right to self-determination, everybody has the right to, living their lives, have food sovereignty, and what have you. And that's why it's really important that, we're all here in this Congress today.
We have a fun short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Fun short break, don't go away. Welcome back. We go live to Argentina. The lower chamber of Congress approved in general Milei's flagship project, also known as the Basis and Starting Points Law. The law, which includes some of the government's main proposals for his term in office, was approved in general with 142 positive votes, 105 negative votes, and 5 abstentions. Now, lawmakers, as we can see on the screen, continue to debate the bill chapter by chapter to vote on each of the main topics of the law, which include the privatization of state enterprises and the granting of extraordinary powers to President Milei. Later on Tuesday, the Congress will also vote on the government's tax package. Meanwhile, Argentine workers at cooking oil pressing plant joined a 72-hour strike in protest against a reform package being promoted by Javier Milei's government. Cooking oil sector workers announced that the strike will last indefinitely, and over 80% of the country's oil mills employees will join the pressure measure. Experts warn that the indefinite strike will affect the harbor of San Lorenzo, the main agro-exporting hub of the country. In this context, the oil workers are taking pressure measures against the government proposal, which in their opinion violates all labor regulations. Likewise, the representatives of the State Workers Association stated that with the work stoppage, they will suspend experts and sanitary controls at national level in order to stop the government's law proposals. If President Milei's flagship proposal is approved, the national government will have the power to reduce or dissolve any body linked to the state. On Tuesday, Kenyan President William Ruto convened a special cabinet meeting to discuss measures to tackle deadly floods that have killed nearly 170 people and displaced 185,000 others since March. Heavier than usual monsoon rains compounded by the El Niño weather pattern have devastated the East African country, turning roads into rivers, engulfing villages, and threatening to unleash even more damage in the weeks to come. The weather has also wreaked havoc in neighboring Tanzania, where at least 155 people have been killed in floodings and landslides. According to the United Nations, about 96,000 people have been displaced by months of relentless rains in neighboring Burundi. On Tuesday, Indonesia's One volcano erupted, prompting authorities to raise the alert status to the highest level and evacuate more than 12,000 people living on nearby island. The Center of Volcanological and Geological Hazard Mitigation warned residents of Tagulandang Island that a tsunami could be triggered by volcanic material collapsing into the ocean. The volcanology agency said the eruption column reached 5 kilometers high and urged any remaining residents within a 7-kilometer radius to immediately evacuate, warning of possible further explosive eruptions. In other news, on Tuesday, the Olympic flame departed Greece for France aboard the iconic ship Belém. In this way, the Olympic flame began its journey aboard the Belém, Europe's oldest three-masted sailing ship from Greece to the host country of the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. Meanwhile, the iconic fire will have a 12-day voyage linking the cities of Piraeus and Marseille to add one more chapter to the history of this ship, which 40 years ago was designated a historical monument. A curious fact is that in 1896, the first Olympic Games of the modern era were held in Greece, and that same year in France, the Belém was created. The route of the Olympic Torch relay will be a 2-month journey through the French territory starting on May 8, 2024 in Marseille. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.